Let's start this. Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to this amazing panel discussion today called Activations of Solidarity, Co-resistance and Care. So my name is Camille Larivée. I am the ICCA Director of Programming. I am based in Georgia in Montreal. I have long brown hair, dark brown hair. I wear some beautiful little mushroom beaded earrings and a little like necklace, which is a little knife. I wear a long, I will say, black shirt, two black shirts, and yeah, and I'm in my office and there's a lot of books and stuff behind me. I'm really, really happy and excited to have a conversation about this amazing publication that myself and my colleague Emily Critch here put together in the past couple months. And I want to say hi. Thank you for all the artists to be with us today. So Emily, if you want to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about the publication, that would be amazing.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Emily Critch. I'm Mi'kmaq from Amastagwekta-Hamkuk, also known as the Bay of Islands in Newfoundland, and I'm the program coordinator with the ICCA. So just to give like a visual description of myself for folks who need that, like I'm a white passing Mi'kmaq person. My hair is pulled back. I have, brown curly hair. I'm wearing a gray and pink shirt, and I'm also wearing a black blazer and black earrings, and you can see house plants and also some assortment of sticky notes next to me that are pink and blue. Anyways, just give a little bit of an introduction about the publication. Activations of Solidarity, Co-Resistance and Care is an online publication that centers the embodied knowledges and experiences of Black, Afro-Indigenous, Indigenous, and Indigiqueer artists and the ways they enact solidarity and accountability within their communities. And just to kind of give a bit of a reference to where the title for this collection of artworks comes from. It's inspired by the conversation between Robin Maynard and Leanne Simpson, published in Until We Are Free, Reflections on Black Lives Matter in Canada. This book here, it's incredible. There's lots of sticky notes as well. But in this in the conversation that they had in this book, moderated by Yaz M. Morgan, Maynard and Simpson reflect on the future of Black and Indigenous sovereignties and self-determination, and how this is grounded in co-resistance and solidarity with one another. And that's just a bit about the panel or the publication as a whole.
Maybe we can start by if each of you wants to introduce yourself before we start with the questions. So maybe we can start what's on my screen with Alex.
Yeah, for sure. Scano, everybody. My name is Alex Jacobs Bloom. My pronouns are she, her. I'm Lower Cayuga Nation of Six Nations of the Grand River Territory, Wolf Clan, and Mixed European. I'm based in what is now known as Hamilton, Ontario, but the ancestral homelands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and traditional territory of the Omohomwe. And we're on Treaty 3 Between the Lakes Purchase Land. I'm a visual artist and emerging curator, and my work centers love, healing, community, indigeneity. I'm a light-skinned person with dark brown hair that's about just below shoulder length. I'm wearing red lipstick and a checkered shirt. I'm wearing deer antler earrings and gold necklaces. And I have a large framed photograph behind me. And it's just really great to meet everybody. And I'm really grateful to be here and be a part of this publication. So Nyawe.
Awesome. Taryn, do you want to go?
Yeah, hi, I'm Taryn Walker. My pronouns are she, they. I'm a queer, mixed Indigenous person. I have both Salish and the Klapma ancestry, as well as mixed European. I'm currently tuning in from Treaty 6 territory. My art focuses on themes of tenderness, healing, utopia, and the supernatural. And I have dark brown hair, bangs, long braid. I'm currently wearing a black shirt. I have light skin, and I'm wearing clear glasses and clear earrings. I'm currently in my office. So there's a futon behind me, some dragonflies, a strange plexiglass thing. Yeah, that's me.
Amazing. What about you, Kira?
Hi, everybody. My name is Kira Bolt, and I am a light-skinned Black biracial woman with a perfectly symmetrical face. If there's one thing I'd like for you to take away from that description, I have brown curly hair that goes to my shoulders, and I am in a green Adidas tracksuit, yes, from the Ivy Park drop. And I have accessorized it with a gold belt. And I am currently sitting in my workplace's fabulous research center. So behind me, I'm in a all wood room, and behind me are some books and periodicals. And I work at V-Tape. On a side note, if you wanted to also have access to this fabulous space that I'm in. And I am based in Hamilton, but currently I am in Toronto, which is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississauga of the Credit First Nation and the ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples. And what else are we supposed to say about ourselves? I'm Kira. I work mostly in performance art. Thanks to getting older in a pandemic, my work now is more video based, and I work usually as a persona named Kiki, who appears in our work, and I'm interested in discussing or addressing issues of gentrification and artists' roles in displacement and institutions while using humor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And finally, we have Carmela.
Dante, hi everyone. My name is Carmela Benedito de Barros. My pronouns are they, them. My people come from Brazil, linking back to Africa through the transatlantic slave trade on my mom's side. She moved to Canada when she was about 6 years old through adoption. And on my dad's side, we're Treaty 6 Mississauga Cree. I grew up in foster care on unceded Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh territories where I live today. I am a multidisciplinary artist. I focus primarily on music, sound production, film, and writing. I'm also a curator and a community support worker. My work is grounded in celebrating and witnessing my community and the land around me. And so I like it to be as interactive and as inclusive and as collaborative as possible. And yeah, I'm really grateful to be here today with you all.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, to introduce yourself. So I think before we really deep, go deep in the work that you created for this publication, we kind of wanted to just chat a little bit about the previous work that you're doing, or also what's your creative process in general with your work that you're doing. So yeah, we were wondering if you can tell us a little bit more about your artistic, creative, or community-based practices, and what are some of the team and ideas that you previously engaged within your work, and that maybe, lead you to what you did for this publication, for example. So yeah, so we kind of want to know a bit more about your practice, all of you. Maybe we can do again like the same circle of people if it's okay with everyone. So maybe we can start with you, Alex.
For sure. Yeah, for me, just having grown up outside of my community of Six Nations and within an urban space, my practice has been about returning home. I'm a primarily photo-based artist, getting more into video, but anyways, it's really allowed me the opportunity to confront difficult themes and familial experiences, but also the space to understand myself and reclaim indigeneity and learn about my responsibility and healing as well. But building meaningful connections and relationships with community has also been a big part of my practice and a component of that returning home. So through my work, I often explore themes of ancestral memory, intergenerational love and healing. And more recently, I'm exploring Indigenous futurities and learning to develop a relationship with the land and water as well.
Great, thank you for sharing. What about you, Taryn?
Oh my gosh, I'm like, where do I start? My practice is, I guess, very much interdisciplinary. I work with like tech-based art, like video, sound, but also I think at the heart of my practice is just drawing. But lately, over the last few years, I've been primarily working with site-specific installation. Some of my most recent projects include working with the CNN Roundhouse in Esquimalt on Vancouver Island to create work for that space. I've also just recently did installation in Churchill Square in Edmonton, creating an installation for that outdoor space. So I think I very much consider kind of physical landscape within my work, as well as like visual iconography. My practice primarily consists of, at the moment, beeswax preserved drawing presented in different installation formats. The themes that I work with, I guess, primarily are kind of stem from like the overarching theme of identity, but within that I explore themes of like tenderness, healing, love, queerness, kind of super ideas of like the supernatural, kind of spiritual, as well as more like futurism and like utopic futures, hopeful futures. Yeah, I think that's it.
Amazing. I like hopeful future. It's really interesting. Thank you. What about you, Kira?
Yes. So my practice is mostly performance-based. I work with a persona named Kiki, who I created when I was very young in high school. Initially, the persona wasn't for art. It was more like a possibility model. And I think, yeah, anyways. And a lot of my work is kind of about Hamilton, where is like the city that created my persona. And I'm interested in looking at, of course, like post-industrial cities and gentrification and art washing. Also the messiness in being biracial, Black biracial, and the messiness being the access that I have based on high pass enough, and how that messiness creates entry points into snitching on the institution, but also the complexities of being welcomed in the institution. And I think that's mostly it, but most of my work starts with my muse Hamilton.
Which we will talk a bit later, your piece that you did with Alex about, Hamilton and all of this. That really looking forward to hear more about it. And what about you, Carmela?
Yeah, so I guess filmmaking is primarily what I've been interested in for the past couple of years. So the film that I made for this project was my third film. And yeah, I've been really having a lot of fun with a more like do-it-yourself style filmmaking where everything from storyboarding to filming and cinematography, editing, soundscaping, music, post-production, all that. Like I've been having a lot of fun just playing around with it myself or with maybe one or two other people. And yeah, so for this project, I decided that I wanted to, I guess, kind of explore the topic of being a Black Indigenous person, because for me, that's something that I'm thinking about all the time, whether it's like barriers to community, to cultural connection, accessibility to culture, I guess like the lateral violence that can be experienced as a Black Indigenous person. These are all things that I've been thinking about a lot recently, I guess, as the BLM movement kind of took a rise, and so did the land back movement almost at the same time. It's felt almost like we're in competition a lot of the time, especially like showing up on the front lines, and it feeling like we're there for one specific cause, and one specific people. Being a Black Indigenous person can feel like very complicated and compromising a lot of time in community. So that was something that I wanted to explore through film, because it's really hard to talk about and there's not a lot of people who I have to talk about it with. But two people who really inspire my thinking on the topic are Amber Starks and Cheyenne Wizard Jones. They're two mixed Black Indigenous people who I really look up to. So I got to interview them and recorded my interviews with them and used samples from that in my film, which felt really good to be able to share more of like a collective experience and a diverse experience of Black indigeneity through my film. So it wasn't just me screaming into the void about my own experience, but more like connecting with other people around the topic. Yeah, so I in putting together my piece, it was really grounded in those interviews and kind of building off of that, building a story. And the way that I make films is very collage-like, so I focus like equally on sound as I do on visuals. So I started with the sound, with the interview clips, and then I wove in some soundscaping and some samples from different like news footage and videos that I found online that connected to the topic. And then I built music into the piece. And then I layered in film as kind of like a finishing touch. So it was a really like fun and cathartic, also heavy experience to make the film. But it was really cool because I learned a lot through connecting with other people over the topic and learning to like articulate my own understanding of my own experience. So I was really grateful for the opportunity to even make the film. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Carmela. What we wanted to talk about next was getting into more specifically about each of the works within this online publication. And just wondering if each of you could share about the creative processes that led you to this work, or anything else you'd like to share specifically about the creation. So yeah, let's start with you, Alex and Kira.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Kira and I have been besties for like 13 years. We met in public high school in Hamilton, and I think having grown up in a predominantly white neighborhood in the suburbs, we encountered similar experiences just being mixed race. And while we initially connected over our deep, deep, deep love for Britney Spears, we both had similar desires to be artists, and I feel like we've grown so much and learned a lot from each other and within our own communities as well. And I think that bond, really connected us. So we have collaborated on the past on these themes, but for this project, we for a long time have been reflecting on our collective past. And one moment in particular that we just couldn't fully articulate at the time, which was the Grand River land dispute in 2006 at the Douglas Creek Estates, but what is now known as 1492 Land Back Lane. And I was 15 at the time, and I just remember seeing these images in the media where land protectors were being portrayed as these savages for protecting our traditional territory. And I just felt that there was a complete lack of education around this moment because the media was so one-sided, and it was literally happening just 25 minutes away from Hamilton. So we wanted to kind of touch upon this in the piece, but because we felt that it aligns with the gentrification and the violence that's happening within Hamilton, where racialized and marginalized folks are being pushed out of the city for white communities. So to kind of counteract that footage from the Douglas Creek Estates in 2006, you can kind of see at the beginning and end of the piece, we wanted to incorporate powerful voices like Skylar Williams, who has been at the forefront of the land back movement on Six Nations, and Beverly Jacobs, who actually is my second cousin and a lawyer on Six Nations. And we just really wanted their voices to be centered. Kira, do you want to add anything?
Of course. 13 years. We should change that number so we seem younger. But yeah, so again, it's impossible to talk about gentrification without talking about land back. And this year, Hamilton was one of the most expensive, had the highest increase of rents in the country. And I moved back to Hamilton during the pandemic, and my first projects and works were this project called, which I should have mentioned in the first question, my bad, but was this project called the Truth Booth, which would sit in the arts district of Hamilton, handing out gentrification acceptance therapy pamphlets. And it felt like an interesting time to come back to a city that now is in a place where the gentrification in the city is so Hamilton's in a scary place. Hamilton's in a scary place, in an interesting place. And in current discussions that city council is facing is talking about this notion of urban sprawl. And urban sprawl directly affects farmlands, but it also, again, incentivizes those types of developments, which not coincidentally occurred again with land back lane. And and the pieces of the project that I enjoy the most are the reappropriating the economic development ads that you hear over these videos. And these economic development ads are constantly reappropriated with this promise of what Hamilton was supposed to always be, which was this ambitious city. And so that's the audio that you hear, that is from, I can't think of the year now, but it's old, and it always comes back, and it's always reoccurring. I think that's all that I would like to add. Oh, and the process of collaborating with Alex was so much fun, lots of yelling and kid. But it was a really beautiful, it's always like a joy to get to collaborate with your best friend, but it was also really enjoyable to kind of piece together this thing that I don't think we ever, when we became good friends, we never really had an opportunity to like unpack. And I think that was also that experience, like, because there was no real dialogue in our friend groups and in our classrooms about what we were seeing, it was like an internalized experience. And I think it's probably like was probably, at least for me, was maybe one of the first indications of the complexities of Hamilton, aside from my own experience of like racism and white supremacy, anyways. Thank you.
Thank you so much. When you're talking about the audio clips going over, and you're talking about, that being your favorite part, I think something that's really, really present in the video is, obviously, satire, using humor that really highlights how gentrification is a violent tool of like dispossession and colonialism, but like the balance of the two. And I don't know. I did laugh a lot during watching the video. So thank you so much for like sharing a lot about that process. How about you, Taryn? Do you want to share about a lesson in listening?
Yeah, for sure. I think I had originally started thinking about exploring creating soundscapes to go along with my drawings. I'm really interested in storytelling within my work. I think that's a very like driving force, is to kind of, for me to create like these images with lots of elements of story. And I'm really interested in like multi-sensory experiences. So I felt like it was kind of this natural progression to start exploring sound. But from that, I decided to basically go out into landscapes and record different landscapes. And for me, as an individual, I grew up in a small, primarily white community, and I didn't have the opportunity to find Indigenous community until I was an adult. Like I didn't have the opportunity to stand in a room with like all Indigenous people until I was like 19 years old and have that experience. So I feel like a lot of my artistic practice has been, I guess, like healing, like finding healing, finding community, and reconnecting with my indigeneity, having conversations with family, kind of like coming back to that. And then through the soundscapes, I found myself just wanting to just, I guess, come back to the land and just sit with the land. And I feel like in our current society, there's so much noise, whether that be digitally online or just in conversation. I feel like we're in a capitalist society. We're very individually driven to say our piece and be part of a conversation and get our opinion in there and all that kind of stuff. But there isn't that much value placed on listening and sitting and just actively listening without in your head, like formulating your opinion or thinking about what you're going to say next, and just like really, truly just like sitting people and giving them space to say their story and say what they're feeling, and also listening to the land in a similar way, to just sit and listen, like what does the land have to say, what does the land need. And I really feel like if you take the time to slow down and to listen, that the answers are really there. And so I found, I think I wasn't expecting, for myself at least, this process of sitting in different landscapes in different locations, and just listening to the wind and listening to the water and the birds and the insects was incredibly emotional experience for me. I actually ended up collaborating with my dad a little bit on this project, which was very special. He was super excited about it and was like, oh, I know like this great place by the Jordan River, we need to go and create and record there, which was very meaningful and special for me to have him kind of give his input on the project. But when we did that, we had to hike through like this cut block, and we're like, oh my God, is the logging going to pick up in the audio? Like, which I think is just like, was an interesting kind of just juxtaposition for me, because then, you know, from that, like we had conversations about like how the land was traditionally used and impacts of logging in the area. Like it was when there was so much smoke just like across the country, and they were like still logging in this area that we're hiking to, and you could physically like feel as you exited the forest and walked through the cut block, like the difference in temperature, and it just like the impacts were just like of logging and of human impact just felt so visceral. And then to go into this kind of this like river area that was like traditionally used for as a gathering place, as a place to go fishing, and to like spend time with community, was just so like peaceful and quiet. But like knowing on the other side of the ridge there was logging happening, I felt like I could, it felt like it was very, I'm just trying to find the correct words to explain this. It felt like physically you could feel like the emotion of the landscape and like the impacts of that on the land, as well as our relationship with that. So I think for me, it just, this project felt incredibly special, incredibly timely, and yeah, it has also just made an impact on me individually in terms of like my practices around listening and slowing down and really just being present in my body and in space, I guess. And then in kind of pairing with the audio I created, I also included 5 beeswax preserved drawings, and I kind of look at beeswax as this act of preservation, thinking about like how art will kind of live on for future generations, how story has resilience and will live on. And the imagery for me was just very, very much inspired and derived from my experiences just being with the land and making these recordings.
Thank you so much for sharing this, Taryn. And how about you, Carmela? Did you want to speak more about your project? One thing that came up with me, like if you already talked about the project, but even if you wanted to just expand on, I'm really drawn to how you use sound in this work. Sound is a malleable form. Sound is something that, in a lot of ways, kind of captures things that don't come with words, or like sound is, I just wanted to hear more thoughts about that, or anything else you'd like to share about your piece.
Yeah, thank you. I think first I just want to say how exciting and cool it is to hear about everyone else's process in making their films or their pieces. I'm noticing like lots of themes come up throughout all of our work that really like connects them all together. So it's really cool to just be a part of that. Something that Taryn said that really struck me was that piece on listening. And for me, that was a really integral part of my filmmaking process, was like seeing listening and witnessing of story as ceremony. And so making my film for me was like a very sacred and special process of like kind of unfolding my own understanding and my own connection to myself and my like unconscious beliefs and understandings of myself and the way that I relate to the world, as well as connecting to other people and connecting to the land through the process of making a film, and really like tapping into that space as a sacred space. So yeah, it was just really cool to hear you talk about that, as well as, I guess, yeah, I think just having really clear intentions in our art making, and being curious to like dig into histories and to imagine futurisms is such a sacred and badass thing. So I'm just really excited about this conversation. But yeah, sound for me is kind of like where all of my art seems to start in terms of filmmaking. I think I'm most interested in sound, and the visual component is kind of like little sprinkles on top almost. So I do start with sound, and it comes from, I think, yeah, I'm always listening, and soundscaping is an art form that I'm really interested in. Similar to Taryn, I think for me it's very like healing to just sit and listen to the land and people and the sounds around me, and I learn a lot from that. And I just learned recently that soundscaping was an art form, so I was like, okay, let's go, let's do this. So over the past couple of years, I've just been like popping my iPhone out and recording like random bits of sound as I go about my day. So I have this huge library that I can draw from anytime that I'm working on a project. So that's where like a lot of the sound for this film came from, as well as like, again, I think I mentioned before, like intentionally sampling audio from various like documentaries or speeches or news forms online. And then again, like really centering my work in honoring the words of the two aunties that I got to interview for my piece.
Amazing. Yeah, I think there's a lot of themes that are coming, together in all your work. I think the similarities that you were just naming, Carmela, are really strong. So when Emily and I were thinking about this project, and the 2021 like programming team for ICCA is solidarity, and it's really something that we ask each of you to think about through the process of making this new piece. But I think there's like this like really strong aspect of collaboration in each of your piece, and caring for the land, caring for communities, kinship, all of this. So our next question is really around the word solidarity. So what it means to you, and is being in solidarity an action you consider within your artistic practice? And if so, in what ways? It's a really big question. So, feel free to take the time to respond in the way that you want. But yeah, I was also wondering for you, Alex and Kira, the way that you collaborate together, and yeah, what's really means solidarity to you, to yourself, but also working together.
Do you want to start, Alex? Or would you like me to? Okay. Being in solidarity with Alex is talking first. I kid. But yeah, I think, well, again, solidarity, I think because of being biracial and passing enough, I feel like I learned I think the way that I came to identify was first as being an ally or in solidarity, and also the position I take, even though I identify as Black, is understanding that my position is like an ally because of my privilege. And I think solidarity, or learning about solidarity, or the experience of solidarity for me has come from not having, growing up with not having a Black community. So being in collaboration or in relationships with other folks that share a marginalized experience. And like Alex and I, we kind of only had each other, and we didn't only have each other, not to tiny violin, but when it came to coming to age and growing up, growing up as artists, our relationship was kind of, I don't exactly understand what's happening, but I know that it feels wrong. And those small exchanges of glances that are that's not right, is how I would say solidarity initially manifested in our friendship. And now it manifests in us collaborating and works together, and kind of understanding how our positions and experiences together can kind of create a fuller picture, is what I would say about being in solidarity.
Yeah, I want to echo what Kira was saying. I think the work really is a testament to mine and Kira's relationship and our experience just having grown up in Hamilton. And we kind of learned what solidarity was, kind of what Kira was saying, just by force, because of our experiences growing up as mixed racialized folks in predominantly white neighborhoods, and growing up in white centric homes. So I think we learned just a lot from each other, and we really developed a love that is radical, and it feels like family. And I've had such an amazing opportunity to get to know other folks within Hamilton that have had similar experiences, and where we kind of share kinships there as well. But for me, solidarity, I'm a white presenting mixed person, and I just know and understand my responsibility to unlearn and spend time and listen to community, and really show up and be accountable. And I carry privilege and biases that are rooted in colonialism and white supremacy. So I'm just constantly trying to challenge myself, do research, and to sit and be uncomfortable. And in my work, I really try to center and support community, and I always try to lead with love and care with everybody that I work with. And so I really truly understand that my proximity to whiteness, and how I can easily navigate institutions. And I have worked within institutions in the past. So I always try to advocate for education, for research, consultation with communities is so important. And learning protocols, and pushing for that inner work that needs to be done, because I think that is just so necessary for moving forward. And I'm always trying to keep in mind the future generations that are to come, and I really just hope and pray that they have different experiences so I always try to uplift youth, and they're going to be our next leaders. So that's been a big focus of mine.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate like learning also about like your really special relationship. It's really beautiful. It's amazing. I was thinking, Taryn, in terms of like, you know, how your piece is so like entangled in radical love for the land, and how there's like this strong relationship that you like put together in this piece. And I think as I see it, it's like really rooted in solidarity in different ways. So yeah, I was wondering if you want to talk a bit more about solidarity in your piece.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like solidarity for me, it's really about holding space for individuals or beings, not necessarily human beings, but animals, plants, the land, earth, to feel safe and to feel loved and to feel heard. And I think to do that, we have to really, as I was mentioning before, really kind of sit back and give space for beings to feel that and feel like genuinely listen to, and as I kind of talked about before, just practicing this radical love, this active listening, and really showing up and being present, and listening, as well as kind of in this process uplifting the beings that we are listening to, and being like, you're safe, I love you, I hear you, and really truly meaning that. And I think to do that, we have to, like for me, and this process has involved like a lot of unlearning, as Alex and Kira kind of touched on, kind of unlearning these systems of white supremacy, these systems of colonialism, these systems of capitalism, that have been kind of taught to us, and kind of doing that inner work, that healing process, in order to kind of show up to the best of our ability to kind of offer that to land, to beings that are around us, and to communities. And knowing, I think also, like feeling uncomfortable and feeling kind of messy in this process, because I don't think it is inherently easy to do this, but to do it anyway, and do our best anyway, to kind of show up in this way, and in this way of listening. Yeah, I'm not sure if I answered that well, but yeah, and also I think for me it's about I guess like quieting our mind, kind of quieting that need to constantly speak and constantly like talk over people, and kind of reeling that back in, and knowing when it's better to sit down, it's better to listen, it's better to hold this this space, hold this space for others in this way. And in doing that, you're not necessarily doing nothing or being passive. You're actually being a kind of an active and loving participant in these acts of solidarity.
Amazing. Thank you, Taryn. No, your answer was amazing. No worries here. So there's like this act of like, you know, listening that you were mentioning, Taryn, that it's also really present, I think, in your piece, Carmela. Also this like collective ceremony that you're talking about, and the relationship that you present and that it really like that you care about with Amber and Cheyenne. So I was wondering if you can talk about it through acts of solidarities, I think, that are really present through that way in your piece.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I guess this is a big topic, and I have a lot of thoughts on it, so I'll try to be as clear as possible. But yeah, I think solidarity to me, as everyone has kind of shared, it exists and like shows up in all parts of our lives. Like, I think racial and cultural solidarity is one of the most obvious places that it comes up for me, but as well as like, I think all of my experiences and experiences that I witness, I have or try to build solidarity for and with. So whether it's like being a queer person, having solidarity with queer community, and or having experienced houselessness and poverty, mental illness, like being in foster care, all of these things, like the liberation and sovereignty and autonomy and freedom that I think every person strives for and desires for, I think can show up in different ways, or like requires different means to get there. And so for me, solidarity is like understanding like what I need to be free, and then being curious and open to hearing what everyone else needs, and then thinking of ways to like actively get ourselves there together. Yeah, and so in my piece, I thought it was really important for me to not only be like sharing my own perspective and own thoughts on being a Black Indigenous person, because if I did do that, I would be kind of, I guess, like it would, I would have felt like I was kind of speaking against my own politics that I guess are grounded in wanting to like honor and uplift as many voices and perspectives as possible, understanding that like solidarity can't happen as only one person. It's not like an insular thing. So yeah, when I was talking with Amber and Cheyenne, I was listening and learning a lot through relating to them and to their experiences, and also through understanding that like we also have very different experiences, and that like being a Black Indigenous person means an endless amount of things. And so in my piece, I was trying to articulate that it isn't just one thing, but at the core of it all is this like foundational and like fundamental need to like decolonize and eradicate white supremacy, and that there's this like foundational sense of autonomy and freedom and self that exists for all of us, that I think we could benefit from focusing on more, to move forward in all of our movements for freedom and liberation. And yeah, when I think about solidarity, and when I think about what that means, because it can often be very overwhelming because so many people need so many different things. I think what it comes down to for me is empathy building. Like we can't experience true solidarity with anyone if we don't understand that like feeling experience that they have. And so that was like a big focus for my film as well, was like wanting to like evoke some sort of like feeling experience for anyone witnessing the piece. So rather than just trying to like tell you what it's like to be me, I tried to use sound, and I tried to use visuals, and I tried to practice storytelling in a way that could help someone feel a little bit of what it feels like to be me, and what it feels like to witness my community experiencing what we experience. And I kind of believe that without that empathy and without that like understanding of feeling that so many people are really scared of, because like being a Black person, being an Indigenous person, being a queer person can be really scary and uncomfortable and unpleasant a lot of the time. So I get that people don't want to like feel that, but without that feeling, I don't think that solidarity is really possible. So I think art is a really cool way to help people tap into that feeling and understanding, to like inspire the work that it takes to really be in solidarity. And something that that Amber says in the piece and said in my interview that I thought was really powerful was like, I think she said something like, you don't have to like me, but you have to do the work. And that I think is really powerful. And I feel that way about my film. I'm like, you don't have to like it, but I hope that it makes you feel something and that that helps you do the work. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Carmela. Something you said earlier, you mentioned how solidarity can't happen as one person. And I think that really ties into the next question I'm going to ask everyone. But who are the individuals working within your communities or artists and thinkers who inspire and inform your work or your practice? And it doesn't have to be, like an academic or anybody, like it could be, a relative, a cousin, a friend, it could truly just be anybody. So just thinking about like those relationships, and also how solidarity doesn't happen within one person, you know what I mean? Like as a collective action. So just thinking about the folks that inspire all of you in the work that you do. How about you, Alex or Kira?
For sure. I feel like there's so many people who have informed my work, and really like as a human being. I'm so grateful for the teachings I received from grandmother Renee Thomas Hill, who's based on Six Nations, and Kalinda Klein and Kim Anderson. They're both based in Guelph, and I learned so much from them. Shelley Nero really inspires my artistic practice. And I've learned so much from Ashley Miracle, Yuma Hester, Sally Frater, Danielle Busno, and Abadar Kamgari, and so many different aspects of my life and my practice. And I've been engaged in a long-time mentorship with Anne Brascoop, who has taught me just so many incredible leadership skills with an Indigenous focus, and how to be like assertive within institutions. And Lisa Myers is a recent mentor, and I feel like I'm learning so much about how approaching curatorial work with an Indigenous and community-based lens. And Kira also inspires me so much, and is such a big support system for me. I always love talking about our practices together, because I feel like I learn and grow so much from just talking with her.
That's so sweet. Same, obviously. Alex is always my first call when in crisis and I need advice. But for me, the artists and thinkers who inform my practice, my performance persona is heavily influenced by Camille Turner, who is originally from Hamilton, who similarly had a similar kind of persona, Miss Canadiana. So that work has heavily influenced Kiki. And then some of the other artists, I have to shout out Joshua Lass. He's the one who made the breastplates that we wear in the video piece. He's an incredible painter and collaborator and incredibly generous and makes me feel optimistic about being in Hamilton. And then our young artist is Kenny Bomberry, another Hamiltonian. And then my larger influences are Jessica Kerchikarahanga, who like in a way raised me, and just as an artist, not as a child. And Sally Frater, of course, and Andrea Fatona, and Sarah Ty Black.
Amazing. Thank you so much. How about you, Taryn?
I feel like there's so many people that inspire me and have helped me grow and continue to help my art practice grow. I think my like OG like inspiration is my dad. He's always been incredibly supportive of my art practice, and just I very much continue to value our conversations about art, about Indigenousness, our experiences of being Indigenous people, our experiences with the land, and all that kind of stuff. Also, like so many of my members of my family continue to inspire me. I am incredibly grateful for I have two very supportive partners that really offer incredible conversations around art making and have like carried my gear for me. But I'm also kind of more generally inspired by many Canadian thinkers and artists. For example, I'm really inspired by Klabouziak. I'm very inspired by Sarah Jim. I'm very inspired by curator Michelle Schocks, based and then Leanne Bettismake Simpson. Also, her writing has incredibly informed, I guess, like the trajectory of my current work and just thoughts on like decolonialism and the land and queerness and I guess queerness as traditional and community and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm also inspired by artists like West Coast artist Sarah Jim, as well as US artists Anne Hamilton and artists like Frida Kahlo also are incredible inspirations. I feel like I draw inspiration both from like my like immediate community as well as just like historically and all that kind of stuff.
Amazing. Thank you so much. How about you, Carmela?
Yeah, I have so many people who inspire my work. One of the first people that comes to mind actually though is Trisha Hersey in the NAP ministry, because for me, like making art is actually something quite new for me. For a long time, I think I was just kind of in survival mode and like struggling with my like holistic well-being and my mental health, and making anything wasn't a reality. And so until I started really like focusing on like caring for myself and resting and like understanding that colonization and white supremacy and capitalism like all hurt our spirits so much to the point of like not even being able to create or imagine futures for ourselves, that was like a really big understanding for me. And yeah, Trisha Hersey and the Nat Ministry, as well as Adrienne Marie Brown, like those thinkers really helped me understand, I guess, like the importance of self-care and of like rest, and that is like at the foundation of like any futurism or creation or liberation movement. And so that teaching is like foundational for me in like all of my art practice, because if I forget to take care of myself, I'm not going to be in a place where I can make anything. And then Edziu is an indigiqueer artist and sound maker who I really look up to. I love their work. They're an auntie who also works on the front lines in community care and youth care in the city that I live in Vancouver. And so we work together as youth workers, and they also taught me how to use Logic Pro, and they taught me a lot about soundscaping and music making. So that's an auntie who I'm really grateful for, as well as Jay Simpson. Jay is a fellow former foster kid, and we met both doing youth work and working at summer camps for Indigenous youth in care. And I met them before I made anything and before I even thought that making things was like something that I could do. And seeing how they really made a name for themselves within the arts community, and really like they just knew they were good shit, and like people weren't listening to them. I went to like some of their first slam poetry shows on Commercial Drive. I was like always a big fan, and that was maybe like 5 years ago, and today like they're winning prizes for their writing. They just published their first book. Like they're really respected in community, and as a writer and as an artist and as a creative, and just seeing the way that like they've always known that about themselves and they've always been so embodied as a creative, and seeing how like they live that as a lifestyle. And when you really believe in yourself and you believe in your work, like eventually people will listen to you. Yeah, they've really inspired me in that way. Yeah, that's just a few people.
Amazing. Well, shout out to all those amazing folks, really, really amazing artists and aunties and creators. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for like your generosity today to just share with us your artistic process and all those beautiful conversation we had. I'm really grateful and really excited also for everyone to go see the work on the website. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing this space with us. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. I can't wait for everyone to see the publication. I guess at the time of this recording, the publication will be launched soon. So when they watch it, it'll be out. So as soon as this panel is over, if you haven't already checked it out, you can view all the artists' work, and you can view the online publication Activations of Solidarity, Co-Resistance and Care online. We'll share the URL soon. But thank you so much to all of you for being here, for being so generous with sharing about your practices, your stories, and everything that inspires you. This made my day, and I feel so much gratitude to be with all of you today.
Yeah, I just wanted to also say thank you. I feel so honored to share space with all of you and share like a platform to share art with all of you. I think it's so incredible just listening to all of your processes around making this work, and it's incredible to see how much crossover there is between everyone's work, even though like we haven't been communicating this entire time. It's like it feels very special, and yeah, I just feel incredibly honored and grateful for all of you.
Yeah, I just wanted to share my gratitude too. I feel like I learned so much through the conversation and through engaging like with your pieces. I'm really excited to see what you all do next. And it was like, yeah, so incredible to share space with you all. And thank you so much to Emily and Camille for this opportunity. It's been really amazing. And Kira, of course, my bestie. Love you.
Yes, I just want to say exactly what Alex said. Honestly, feels like the best work I've made to date. And I think it's because of you all. And if any of you are in Hamilton, you have to give us a call and we'll host you, of course. Please, or in Toronto, we're very close by.
Yeah, it was so great to connect with all of you and to like build community in this way. I really appreciate being able to like revisit the things that we made together and share our thoughts on like what went into making it. I think for me, whenever I'm interacting with other people's work, it's always really fun to hear about the process and the behind the scenes. And so I really appreciate having the space to do that together today. So thank you, Emily and Camille, for hosting us.